What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can also find this show in podcast form wherever you get your podcast. Just search Packer Fan Total Access. Got a little bit of, I don't know if you call it breaking news. It's a little bit of an update here. This is some comments that Gutey made about Rashan Gary yesterday. I don't know if you guys caught the mini presser that he had at the combine. Obviously, more and more information starting to trickle out. You're hearing about Malik Willis's value being somewhere around $30 million per, looking like it could be a third-round pick for the Packers in terms of a comp pick for 2027. I think it was Cushenberry, I believe is the name of the center in Tennessee that got let loose today. So obviously there's a lot of things that are shaking loose. Well, Brian Gutekunst was asked about Rashan Gary, and Wendell Ferreira put together a quick little article over at A to Z Sports. We're going to dive into it. We're also going to touch a little bit on Jason Wilde's article on the same thing. We'll talk a few stats. I want to know what the comments section thinks about Rashan Gary. You know, it seems like every year we're talking about Rashan Gary. He's not worth the money. He's not worth the money. We've talked about the stats on this show. I think he was a good pass rusher last year. Anybody who says he was a bad pass rusher, that means everybody else on the team was absolute cheeks. That means that Khalil Mack was cheeks. That, you know, we talked about in the past how stacking up Rashan Gary's numbers against a Max Crosby, against even, hell, it was last year, I think it was not this last year, but in 2024, he had a higher pressure percentage than TJ Watt, if I remember correctly. So again, it's not like Rashan Gary is a bad football player. The question now is he worth the cap hit in which he's due here in 2026? That's the tough part of the business. So we're going to dive into all that in this article from Wendell. Before we do, if y'all would do that YouTube stuff for me, hit like, hit subscribe, click the bell icon. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your evening. This is just a quick little breaking news segment. We're going to talk about whether Rashan Gary's returning or not. All right. We do these from time to time. We also do long format videos, live streams. We're going to be having live draft coverage. We're going to be covering the combine pretty extensively as well. We've got some other content over in patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. So if you're looking for that type of content, fan driven, we're not experts. We're not insiders. None of that crap. We are just fans like you talking Packers on a daily basis. So if that's what you're looking for, hit subscribe, click the bell icon as well. Let's dive into it. Wendell Ferreira put an article together over at A to Z Sports, and here's what he says. Check any list of potential cut candidates for the Green Bay Packers, and edge rusher Rashan Gary will probably be a part of it. But after all, it sounds like the Packers will keep him at least for one more season. All right, quote, he was impactful towards the second half of the season, general manager Brian Gutekunst said at the NFL Combine. Quote, Rashan has all the talent in the world, and he's produced at a high level for us since he's been here. We would expect that next year as well. It sure sounds like Brian Gutekunst has Rashan Gary in the plans for 2026. Now, we know Aaron Jones, that could change very, very quickly. Wendell went on to write, Gary is a useful player, but his recent level of performance likely doesn't justify his price tag. And that's mostly why he was perceived as a cut candidate. The edge rusher is set to make $19.5 million in 2026 with a $28.021 million cap hit. Theoretically, the Packers could open up some cap room by restructuring him, but that would make the situation in 2027 even more complicated. He has a $22.5 million salary next season, already with a $31 million cap hit, which would get higher in case of a restructure this year. In terms of production, Gary is a viable starter, but his career has been full of ups and downs. Last season, for example, he had 7.5 sacks in the first 7 games of the year, playing alongside Micah Parsons, but 0 sacks in the final 9 games. He didn't play the regular season finale against the Vikings, which they sat a lot of starters, as you guys know. He didn't have any sacks against the Chicago Bears in the playoffs either. Overall, Gary generated 54 pressures in 2025, more than his 47 in 2024. So he actually had more pressures in 25 than he did in 2024. In 2024, a year that he made the Pro Bowl, but well behind his career high in 2021 when he peaked at 81 pressures. Phenomenal year there in 2021 for Rashan Gary. He goes on to say, and that's the problem. When the Packers took Rashan Gary in the draft back in 2019, it was expected that he would take time to develop. After a breakout season in 21, the expectation was high, and it kept this way. He had when he had a strong return for a serious knee injury. However, Gary plateaued and hasn't taken another big step forward, even playing as a secondary rusher. All right, why the Packers intend to keep him. A big factor for keeping Gary is Micah Parsons' ACL injury. It's expected that Parsons will miss around a month to start the regular season, but these types of projections are not always precise. Without Gary, the Packers will be more exposed to a lack of depth if Parsons needs more recovery time, especially because Kingsley Enagbare will hit free agency. Now, we all know that obviously Micah Parsons has talked about it pretty extensively through social media. He plans on being back week 1 there in September. Gutey made a joke at his little presser yesterday that, hey, I think he nicknamed him. I think it was Parsons nicknamed Brian Gutekunst the no man because he's always telling him no to rehab. Like, no, you can't do that. No, calm down, slow down. Don't get in too much of a rush. Don't re-injure yourself. We know Parsons is going to do everything to get back week 1. Outside of Parsons and Gary, the Packers roster has Lucas Van Ness and last year's draft picks, Barron Sorrell and Colin Oliver. All right. So that obviously it's a little bit thin pickings there when it comes to the backside of that roster. Now, I want to point this out. I think it's safe to say we're all excited about Barron Sorrell, right? Like what we seen of Barron Sorrell last year, we thought, man, this guy looks like he's going to be a good football player, right? Well, the reality is Barron Sorrell's pressure percentage, according to Next Gen Stats and GPS tracking, 9.5% pressure rate. Is that good? Is that bad? We always say 10%. If you get to 10%, it's a pretty good indicator. All right, that's a pretty solid pass rusher, especially at the edge position. Barron Sorrell getting 9.5% pressure. It's not an indictment that Barron Sorrell's a bad football player, but you can't in one breath say that Rashan Gary's a bad edge rusher when he had 12.1% pressure rate. And Barron Sorrell had 9.5, but Barron Sorrell is somehow he's going to be an excellent football player, but Gary sucks. It just doesn't work like that, right? When you talk about the run stops as well, Rashan Gary finished the season with 34 run stops. That was only behind Kobe Wooden, who played nose tackle. And we know a lot of touch spy leads to a lot of stops in that regard. So again, 7.5 sacks outside of Micah Parsons. Once again, Rashan Gary led the team in sacks with 7.5. Okay, so if you remove Micah Parsons from the equation, let's say he's not ready the first month of the season. I think he will be. At least all signs are pointing to that. If you remove him the first month of the season and you remove Rashan Gary, what you can't expect to go out there and compete at a high level at the edge rusher position. Many people will say, well, what about Kingsley Enagbare? Well, he's set to hit free agency. Let's say you did bring Enagbare back. Enagbare finished the year with 2 sacks and only 10.4% quarterback pressure percentage. And as run stops as well, Kingsley Enagbare finished with 25 run stops in that regard. Lucas Van Ness, right? We're expecting him to take a huge step forward. I thought he played good when he was healthy. I thought he looked like an effective pass rusher. He finished the season with 1.5 sacks and 11.2 pressure percentage. Once again, Rashan Gary outplayed Lucas Van Ness. He outplayed the up-and-coming Barron Sorrell that we're all excited about. And again, that's not a knock against Sorrell. He was a rookie. He outplayed all of these guys. We even talked about how he outplayed Khalil Mack. When you look at the numbers there, we did a deep dive on that the other night. Again, I am not saying that Rashan Gary is an elite pass rusher. I'm not saying that Rashan Gary is a dominant force, getting after the quarterback at the NFL level, where he's at 28 years old and obviously on the backside of his career. What I am saying is he is still a good football player. His superpower, in my opinion, is the run game. I think he is a great run-stopping edge defender, and I think at this point he is a good pass rusher. He's not elite. He's not great. He's not even very good at pass rushing at this point, in my opinion. But if he's not very good and he's only good, what does that say about Barron Sorrell? What does that say about Lucas Van Ness? What does that say about Kingsley Enagbare? And again, Enagbare probably not going to be back with the team anyway, but it's just a point that people were screaming they wanted to see more Enagbare. I'm looking at the numbers. I'm watching the tape going, he shows flashes, absolutely. Everybody in the league does. But it never got to the point where I felt like, oh, yeah, he is better than Rashan Gary. It just didn't feel like that to me. Let's hop over now to Jason Wilde's article real quick. We'll give you a piece of that, and we'll wrap up. I want to see if there's any information here. You guys know Wilde's covered the team since 96. He wrote an article over at Channel 3000. You guys make sure you go give that a check as well. And what Wilde went on to say here is Green Bay, with his $18 million base salary and eye-popping $28 million salary cap number for 2026, the Green Bay Packers now know they have to do something with veteran defensive end Rashan Gary's contract. If they still believe that Gary, the number 12 overall pick in 2019, who turns 29 in December, and has 2 years left on his $96 million extension he signed in October of 23, can be a field-tilting player for them, they will restructure his deal by moving existing money around, extending him, or convincing him to take a pay cut and keep him. I think that's the play here. We talked about this when we did our mock off season using the Stick to the Model website, which is a phenomenal tool. If you guys have not checked that out, go check out sticktothemodel.com. It's excellent. But when we did that model, what's the first thing we did? We restructured Gary's contract. And I made it a point on that show to say, listen, guys, I'm not saying we should just restructure it and push the cap number out. I'm not saying that. There needs to be a pay cut involved. It doesn't mean that he doesn't get more guaranteed money, though. If you can convince him to take a lower AAV, a lower overall number, average annual value, and then guarantee him a little bit more money on the front side, go ahead and write him a signing bonus of $2 or $3 million. Put that money in his pocket right now. It's easily maneuverable. You can maneuver that cap hit very, very easily if there's guaranteed money involved, and get him to take an overall number. Let's say you could drop his cap hit $5 million, and you say, hey, yeah, we're going to drop your overall number $5 million, but we're going to guarantee you $3 million. So whatever's remaining of that, we'll sign you a bonus right now that'll go into your check, direct deposit tomorrow. Okay, that's a little more appealing for a player than otherwise might be going, what's the market look like for me? My numbers have been down here lately. Teams can see that I'm on the decline. Right? So does it make sense for me to pack up, move my family across the country, potentially go to somewhere like New York or Cali where the taxes are going to be through the roof and you take even more of a pay cut, or just stay right here with a restructured deal and sweeten the deal a little bit for the Green Bay Packers? There's also precedent with this. And what I mean by that is if you go back to Preston Smith, what happened? Preston Smith took a pay cut. I think he took a pay cut twice. And again, it wasn't just a pay cut. They converted a little bit of salary to guaranteed money as well to kind of sweeten that deal for him. Right. So again, there's precedent for this. It makes all the sense in the world with the Micah Parsons injury. And now you're starting to see people kind of speak up about this. Gutey, with what he said, you can't deny what he said. Sounds like Gary might be in the plans here. Again, I'm going to hit this quote one more time here that Wendell Ferreira had, if I can find it, where Gutey said, he was impactful towards the second half of the season. All right. He said, Rashan has all the talent in the world, and he's produced at a high level for us since he's been here. We would expect that next year as well. Again, doesn't mean he's going to be here, but all signs are pointing to maybe a deal is already heavily in the works for Rashan Gary, and until it's done, it's not going to leak out. We talked about that time frame starting on February 15th. That's usually when, okay, we can start looking for restructured deals. Maybe that's already in the works. If you were to take Gutey's comments here, it kind of feels like that's probably where they're leaning. Now, if we wake up tomorrow morning on February 26th and Gary's been cut, would not be surprised one bit, right? Because again, if you cut Gary, what you're essentially doing, if you just cut him outright, you're going to free up $11 million immediately, or you can go post-June 1 cut and free up $19.5 million if my numbers are correct. Okay, so the question is, how much of a pay cut are you willing to take so we can maneuver this cap a little bit easier? And if you are not willing to take take a pay cut to help us with the cap, then, hey, let's just move on and free up $20 million. So that's the latest on Rashan Gary. If I had to pick one way or another right now, it looks like Gary's probably going to be a Green Bay Packer in 2026. I think that's great news at the right price. Again, not on the current deal and $28 million cap hit. So we'll see how it shakes out. We'll keep our finger on the pulse here as we move forward into the offseason. Obviously, we got combine drills tomorrow. We'll be giving you all that information. We'll probably have a morning show, a couple shows in between. Just wanted to bring you guys this information, the latest from Wendell Ferreira covering this, and obviously the comments from Brian Gutekunst at the scouting combine. I'm curious to know what you guys and gals think in the comments. Let us know, how do you feel about Rashan Gary? What's the number you would like him back at? Maybe you just like to cut him outright. That's cool too. We can agree to disagree. We want to hear from you in the comments. Let's take the conversation there and discuss it here on YouTube. Also, make sure the best way to support what we do here at PTA, check out our Patreon group, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. Tons and tons and tons of draft information being shared, not just from me, not articles that I'm putting together, not deep dives we're doing on our draft board, not just the draft link, but the users over there, the listeners, the viewers, they're getting involved. And it's really, really cool. It's kind of a community workshop, if you will, for the draft. It's a really, really, really awesome environment. So you guys make sure you go check that out. That's it. Let us know in the comments, what do you think about Rashan Gary? We will be back tomorrow when news breaks. And make sure you hit that like button for us. My name's Clayton. This is PTA. Go Pack Go.
There we go.
Bye, guys.